Okay, guys, breaking news this morning. It turns out it wasn't a youth that stabbed the Ukrainian boy at the children's care home. It was a man. Okay, guys, so breaking news this morning, terrible news. The recent stabbing of 17-year-old Vadim Davydenko, a 17-year-old Ukrainian boy who had just landed in this country as an unaccompanied minor into our international protection system, and he was put into an apartment for children, a children's care apartment at Tusla, which is the Child and Family Agency here in Ireland. This boy was put into this, and 4 days later, his life was taken in a frenzied attack, I think stabbed up to 100 times in his neck, face, head, and eyes. This poor boy, God rest him and God help his family. But this, and it turns out, the newspapers at the time reported that it was a Somalian youth. A Somalian youth took the life of this Ukrainian boy. It turns out this morning, breaking news, the guards have done their investigations. They have obtained a birth certificate from this man's, turns out he's a man. They've obtained his real birth certificate from his family in Somalia. Absolute scandal. A scandal for the government, a scandal for Tusla, the Child and Family Agency, and a scandal for the Gardaí, because they have consistently told the nation that every single migrant into the country is vetted. And here we have a grown man who got through the IPAS system and was put into a child's care facility for children. And he took the life of this poor Ukrainian boy. And it's absolutely scandalous. The whole thing is scandalous. We have said from the outset, from day one, that they couldn't possibly vet every immigrant coming in or any immigrant coming in. They couldn't possibly vet them. And then Micheál Martin tells us that 80% came through the north, unvetted, waltzing over from the UK, unvetted. Gript uncovered a bombshell article last year saying that when the Gardaí tell us that they are vetted and they're checked against databases, that the actual database is not a criminal database. It's merely a database called Eurodac that tells countries where this asylum seeker had originally sought asylum in. You know, the first safe country they went to, perhaps, or how many countries they've actually claimed asylum in before they get to Ireland. So that's the kind of checks that are done on this Eurodac database. It's not criminal check. And one most famous example of a recent example of this absolute outrageousness is the story of Randy Gladstone. But before I tell you that, I will tell you that the head of the Garda National Immigration Bureau did a big RTE piece last year about how there is no such thing as an unvetted migrant in Ireland. And then we hear of the story of Randy Gladstone. Now, Randy Gladstone is a Guyanan man from Guyana. He had previously done time in the UK for rape. I think he has 19 previous convictions for sexual assault and rape. In 2001, he was finally put in prison in the UK. Lo and behold, last year he scoots over to Ireland. He gets in. And they tell us there is no such thing as an unvetted migrant. Randy Gladstone is the poster boy for this scandalous system of ours in Ireland, this scandalous immigration system. Randy Gladstone, don't forget that name, because he ended up being here also for 4 days, ironically enough. He was in the country for 4 days when he raped an 18-year-old girl who was on holidays with her parents in a holiday complex apartments. And ironically enough, the tale takes another twist. After he did that and he tried to flee, where did he get stopped? He got stopped boarding the ferry back to the UK because the UK had done with him. He was banned from going into the UK. So that's how on top of their game the UK are. And here, he was let in. He was not vetted. He had been in the UK. He had been in the UK prison system. And these are the type of people that we have been shouting about. The place is unsafe. And now this Ukrainian boy who landed in Ireland for 4 days then, he was only here for 4 days. He has lost his life. So it's not safe for him either. Imagine surviving the Ukrainian war and coming here and getting killed after 4 days in a most brutal fashion. And it turns out that he was sharing an apartment who he thought were boys like himself. 16, 17, 18-year-old teens like himself. It turns out the man who took his life was a man, not a child. They told us he was a youth. This is monumental scandal. Who owns the care facility that they were in? Because when we think of Tusla, we think of maybe institution-type care homes run by social workers and the like. But no, Tusla subcontract these contracts out, these foster care contracts. There was one, we don't know, I'm not sure who owns this one, but the investigation is ongoing and the case is ongoing. But there was one called Ideal Care who were found out. They got millions from the state. The Myobi, as far as I know, Mrs. Myobi, an African lady running this, the director of this company, Ideal Care, it turns out they got millions to care for vulnerable children. And they had fraudulently submitted the Garda vetting forms and the professional qualifications of their staff. They put in fake certs, basically. Fake vetting. So this is scandal upon scandal. The entire immigration system is built on scandal. And there isn't one. Now, we have Simon Harris who has come out and Michael Martin talking about the immigration numbers and blah, blah, blah. But this sort of unvetted danger that's going on in the country has to be sorted. As a matter of urgency, it's well past time for this to be sorted. And we think of the poor boy, Vadim Davydenko, and his family, and God rest him. God rest him, to come through Ukraine, through the Ukraine war as a child growing up and then fleeing to Ireland, hoping for a better life, and this to happen to him in a care facility run by Tusla. So that is it never ending. It is never ending, the scandal with immigration. And we won't rest until it does end. Because I always say, if this is this bad now, can we just fast forward our minds to 2040? I read on the internet the other day, someone did a piece on the population decline, the birth rates in Ireland, and a comparison to other countries, and also taken into account the immigration into Ireland. And we must remember family reunification when we talk about immigration numbers. When you hear the immigration numbers, start multiplying, because family reunification is real. And up to 20 people can be brought in, or have been brought in, by these immigrants into the country. So anyway, so this person did a piece, and it said, if things keep going the way they are, in 2060, there will be 1.2 million Irish left. 1.2 million Irish left. Bear in mind that Simon Coveney did a piece saying that his hope was that Ireland would have 10 million, 10 million people living in it. I think by 2040, he said. Outrageous, outrageous. And you and I are expected to sit back and let it unfold in front of our eyes for our children and our children's children to deal with in 2060. It's time to start waking up. It's time to start waking other people up. And it's time to start getting a backbone when you talk about immigration. Start getting a backbone. Think of the future. You don't think of now. Do not think of now. It might not affect you right now, but it will 100% affect your children and your children's children. And I have no words for you if you think you can turn your head and say nothing. I have no words for people who think they can do that. But I'm bearing in mind, you're watching my video here, you're on my channel, and you most likely are on the same page. And thank you for that. And like I said, I will be here to bring you the news, but that's just a bit of breaking news that I wanted to bring you, to think that the head of the Garda National Immigration Bureau came out last year and basically went onto RTE and lectured the nation and lectured the imaginary far right of the nation to stop saying the words unvetted migrant. And here we have two horrific cases. The case of Randy Gladstone, who I say is the poster boy for the unvetted migrant of Ireland. And he should be on a poster, in a frame, in every Garda station and at every port, to remind people there is such a thing as an unvetted migrant. And then the case of this poor boy, Vadim, God rest him, lost his life after 4 days, after coming through Ukraine and the Ukraine war, 4 days in Ireland. And he lost it. And it wasn't a dispute between youths, as we were told. It was a grown man living in a children's care home. This is outrageous. Outrageous. And the Dáil should have an immediate emergency debate and cast the lefties aside and let the real adults take over and let the real adults guide the nation as to what to do. Emergency deportations, emergency change of legislation, and the nonsense of international obligations, throw it in the bin, because you have national obligations. National obligations to the people of Ireland. And that's all I'm going to say. Thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, share the information in this video with your friends and family, at your staff room, whatever. Where I've told you before, when you're standing at the school gates, talk. Talk, because it concerns ye so much. It concerns ye so much, but it concerns our children and our children's children even more. Thanks for joining, guys. Take care. I see you very soon.